Just imagine how rich your vocabulary would be if you learned a new word every day.
Good.
I learned a new word this morning, and this is just, by the way, parenthesis, kakistocracy. Ayo, what does kakistocracy mean?
Okay. By the way, there's an app you should download. It's called NACCIMA Online. It's like etymology online. So let me go. Oh, God, I love it.
Government by the least competent.
So, kakistocracy, I just saw it says government by the worst element of a society. It was coined in 1829 by Thomas Love Peacock.
Okay. No bats being thrown at all. No bats being thrown at all. Just a new word for us to learn today.
Oh, God.
Now, let's get on
How can you come up with that new word on by-election day?
Well, now that we're doing Ashiri, he came up with the word. I just read it out.
I didn't ask you to put it on.
Between Monday and Wednesday this week, 4 policy moves were made towards a more stable foreign exchange market. We can't wait. We can't wait. Foreign exchange market, please improve. That's everybody's prayer right now. Okay. Sorry. But it was the directive by the CBN on Wednesday in a circular titled Harmonization of Reporting Requirements of Foreign Currency Exposures of Banks that has garnered the most headlines. The circular, aimed at curbing banks' foreign speculation activities, they speculate as well, was released at a time when the Naira fell to an all-time low of 1,530 Naira against the dollar in the parallel market. 1,530. Even though the content of the circular was directed to all deposit money banks across the country, foreign exchange matters have in recent times been a subject of general discourse among Nigerians at all levels. So, what does this circular say? What does it mean? Well, we have a panel who will help us decipher all of this morning. It's my pleasure to welcome Professor Olawale Ajayi, Professor of Legal, Social, Political Environment of Business and Head of Department, Strategy, Lagos Business School. Morning, Professor.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, like someone said on X, not Twitter, the CBN has spoken a lot of grammar. Please, can you just speak this to us in English or in Pidgin, whichever one you like, so that we can understand this perfectly?
Apparently.
Professor, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, sort of.
Well, I hope it's much better now.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. Apparently, some of the banks, I prefer to put it that way, were indulging in speculative activities. In other words, trying to hedge by holding foreign currency. That is probably a natural economic behavior, but banks are actually supposed to be in the business of financial intermediation primarily. But all over the world, it's been known that bankers rather, tend to be creative about making money. So essentially what the CBN really required the banks to do is to ensure that their liabilities in foreign exchange and their assets, their holdings are at a balance. That is probably the first way to look at it. So banks, sell, hold foreign exchange depending on what their customers require. Obviously, when you hold on to the foreign exchange, hoping to benefit from the accretion in value because of this yo-yo effect, likely because by and large people are betting on the Naira to keep falling. That can be a double-edged sword, because if things were to reverse in the opposite direction, you would suddenly find that you are in a big hole. So essentially, the central bank. Can you still hear me? I can see you.
I can hear you, but I'm trying to. You said something that's rather interesting just a short while ago, that the banks are involved in forex speculation activities. And so there are a number of times, for instance, the former Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, had questioned a number of times and signaled that the CBN should be able to do something about multiple exchange rates in the country. How does this position of the CBN now change the dynamics in the forex space in Nigeria? Recently, earlier in the week, 2 or 3 days ago, we heard that some BDCs in Abuja shut down their offices, refusing to work. Exactly, explain to us how this CBN directive or spate of directives is going to affect the forex space in Nigeria.
Well, I must say that a situation where you have multiple foreign exchange rates provides room for a lot of abuses, round-tripping, arbitrage, and quite frankly, corruption, because that means some people are allocating these foreign exchange, and discretion may admit of corrupt incentives. So that was never something that I was a fan of. The argument was made that that was trying to protect the position of the Naira, but that's an artificial thing anyway. Trying to manage the position of the Naira. But when you look at the Naira price of the Naira on the street and the price of the Naira in those several windows, it was quite easy for you to be a friend or a favored person, collect the Naira, collect the dollars. Let me just use dollars as an acronym now for foreign exchange, at the official rate, and immediately just exchange it at the parallel market. So no productive activity. And this, that was what was happening. What the CBN is trying to do now, well, in the long run, is trying to discover what is the true, price of the Naira, and to narrow the band between what you can obtain officially, what you can get from if you walk into a bank, and what you can get when you go onto the street. That is the parallel market.
Prof, let me ask you again. My apologies, Prof, for butting in again. This has gone on for so long. Decades, I dare say. And it has continually affected the Nigerian economy, Nigeria's currency, our trade balance, importation, exportation. In fact, there's someone I spoke with some time ago who said the costs of buying the product to bring it to Nigeria is nothing compared to the cost of bringing it into Nigeria, because of cost of this, cost of that, cost of this, cost of that, that you have to bring a particular thing. For instance, you buy something for 20,000 Naira and you have to clear it for 50,000 Naira. I'm just giving an instance. And this has gone on for so long. How do these issues change Who should be answering questions as to why these things needed to happen in the first place, having affected the Nigerian economy for so long, and as you said, a good number of people benefited from it?
Well, okay, so you've moved a bit from the CBN circulars. You're not talking about quite a lot of issues.
No. I just cited the importation thing, as an example, because at the end of the day, you have to get dollars with Naira to achieve some of the things, whatever it is that you have to get. But if the dollars are not available at the CBN or the banks, for whatever reason, it affects business. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Who should be answering questions as to why these things happened for so long and unabated till we got to this point?
I would tend to say primarily, of course, the managers of the economy. But I will also say all of us Nigerians. These are distortionary effects that we have in the general economy. More directly, of course, there are the issues of whether you are using orthodox central banking methods or unorthodox central banking methods. So there's some philosophy there in terms of economic direction. In other words, are you more attuned to having a market, a free market, or are you more attuned to using administrative measures? I think over the past 8 or so years, we have been more attuned to what one may, typically call a more command and control system. And one of the issues with that is that efficiency suffers, corruption increases, and you do have a lot of artificiality in terms of the economy. Whilst one is not saying everything must be left completely to market forces, because there's no such thing as a complete market force. Every country manages their currency, but the measures they use are different. So there is that. But when you have that type of distortion, it has a cascading effect. It's a signaling effect. So at one level, I think that is a problem. At the other level, you have what is called a policy choice, self-interested behavior by officials of government, officials of the state. Self-interested behavior, some of it directly corrupt, some of it is more about empire building and things like that. So those distortions then mean you have a high transaction costs, and you're just putting burdens on economic players, those who are exporting, those who are producing, and that essentially that is what has been the problem. Look at the customs, clearing procedures. It's a shame, what has been going on. You produce, you want to export, and there's so many toll gates. Things are not, the market is not there, or is not working freely, so as to give us some good idea of what is the fair price. Remove this distortion. So I think that has been a problem. The other point, of course, where I say it's all of us, is that we all are so import, the propensity to import is very high. And because we all love, those goods, rather than buying Nigeria or producing, real capacity, these have been problems. The insecurity that has driven farmers off driven farmers off the farms, economic policy that has not been coherent, policy instability that has not enabled us to build, how's it now, build in a systematic fashion, our economy. These have been issues. Disconnect between the federal government and the state government. These have been issues. You know, these are been issues. Disconnect between the federal government and the state government. These have been issues. You know, these are been issues. Disconnect between the federal government and the state government. These have been issues. and the subnational government.
Okay.
I think those are really the problems, or those are the reasons I can attribute.
Prof, the same government that says that we need to look inwards and buy Nigerian and all that, I recall right from the Babangida era, when there was that slogan, export to survive. That's God, how many years ago now? More than 30 years? Yeah. And we are still in this place where some shops tag their prices in dollars. Some properties are let in dollars, and the government that is asking you to buy Nigerian allows this to happen. And who is the Central Bank of Nigeria? For us, the Central Bank of Nigeria represents government. So government is struggling to stabilize this, and at the same time, it looks the other way when people are breaking the law and tagging their goods in dollar, thereby dollarizing our economy.
Well, so that is the aspect of, as some people would say, the Nigerian in us, because you're supposed to transact in Naira in Nigeria. And there are many countries, even in Africa, where if you offer dollars on the street, people will tell you go to the bank.
Yeah.
So there is that measure, but the other point I must say, and I must come hard on it, look at a situation where the National Assembly were buying Toyota Jeeps and saying, well, the roads are not good. Who is supposed to fix the roads? Who is supposed to set the right example?
Not me.
So when you have that, escape from responsibility, it just carries through. We have to be coherent in terms of policy. You talked about that export or buy Nigeria, all these type of operation, feed the nation and so on and so forth. But these policies come like fads and fashion of the moment. We do not carry through. We do not develop the discipline, to defer pleasure until we have produced. And that's why I said the example has to be set from the top. And Nigerians, I don't think, are unreasonable people. When historical, data suggests that. I think if Nigerians see an authentic and believable example by leaders at all levels and a coherence in what is to be done, then you may be able to persuade Nigerians to make the necessary sacrifice. And of course, yes, as a people, we must also be more interested in production rather than in conspicuous consumption. Thank you.
Although Aleros began by saying that we do have a panel, we're hoping to expand the panel shortly. But, Prof, there's some issues that you have raised about the efforts of the Central Bank of Nigeria. But there are those who would also always point you to the fact that for whatever justifiable or unjustifiable reasons, the Central Bank of Nigeria needs to stop printing Naira. In fact, the issues of the ways and means that were quote-unquote abused by the CBN in the past years is an unending issue. So how do you respond to those who say that the excess supply of the Naira into the Nigerian economy could be the cause of its devaluation?
That would be correct in a sense. And there are other causes, of course, but that certainly has validity in a sense, because it's, the printing of Naira is not backed up by any real value. So that certainly may be correct in a sense. But as I said, there are other reasons why that is so. And I think what was troubling was that the corporate governance at the central bank was
oh dear. We hope we'll be able to get Professor Olawale Ajayi back for that conversation because, well, while, of course, he has said that currency devaluation could be because of the excess supply of the notes into the economy. But then one of the issues that's also been raised is that maybe the new policy of the central bank published on January 29 could be a reason for his devaluation. But then, is it really devaluation? Prof, are you still there with us?
with you.
Thank you. Welcome back. Yeah, we lost you momentarily. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that I had said that that could be a reason. But obviously, you know, again, there has been more or less official devaluation. And the attempt or the directive given by the CBN would also result in some measure of devaluation in terms of trying to close that gap between the so-called official window and the parallel market. Yeah, so in a sense, you know, you could say those are, that is correct. But, you know, in recent times, one may say what the central bank is trying to do is to, you know, sort of calibrate so that we can have a much more accurate value for the Naira. And indeed, economists have suggested that the value ought to be around 800 or so. The illiquidity in the market and speculative activity obviously it drives a lot of the fall in the prices that we see. So that is those are some of the aspects of market behavior which we must, of course, expect. The central bank is trying to ensure that there is a more transparent market, and we can only wish them well, hoping that other more fundamental measures, which will generally be longer term, will be taken by the fiscal authorities.
Okay. We've since been joined by Ambassador Ayola Olukoni, former Director General of NACCIMA, that's the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry and Mines and Agriculture. Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning, my dear sister. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Thanks for joining us this morning. Now, the discussion has gone a bit far, but...
I know.
Let me bring you in at this point. Among the core issues, as told us by Professor Ajayi, is our hunger and thirst as well for foreign goods. Even though for many years now we've been screaming, buy Nigerian, buy Nigerian. How do you think government can ensure that to make these policies work, we have to buy Nigerian so that we don't have too much choice when it comes to the things that we consume and the things that we wear and all that?
I totally agree with you in terms of the question of curbing our import bills and our penchant for foreign goods. You know, it's been a very, very long road as far as this is concerned. Why should we import handkerchiefs? Why should we import toothpicks? Why should we import honey when we have honey in this place, in our land too as well? I come a long way in this way. I mean, you talked about the question of issues of curbing our import bills. Let me just quickly say this. To address the crisis we are all in, one, we must cut our import bills and also export our export base in terms of the potential. Let me give you a practical example, because I do understand what Professor Ajayi was talking about, the LBS and all the question and issues of getting the monetary and fiscal policy right. I'm wearing an ethnic fabric. I hope you can see that. I hope that it is. And if you look at the parties these days, you enter any particular party, you will be shocked at the number of glittering fabrics which our women are wearing. You will be shocked. The question is, how much is going to sort things like that? Take, for example, because it's good to give practical examples. I was involved with the promotion of the Adire Ogun, authentic Adire Ogun in Abeokuta, to deal with the question and issues of promoting our ethnic fabrics, and secondly, reduce importation in terms of textile. Brilliant ideas at the state level. But immediately the governor left, the thing just collapsed. So in terms of sustainability of policy, that's one aspect. And I would like to go back to the question and issues of the subnational level. Somebody recently said that when the respective states go to Abuja and collect their checks, a percentage of it is set aside to buy dollars. We don't know where they buy dollars from. Is it from the central bank or other? So that is one aspect of it in terms of, let us also query what is going on at the state level, at the subnational level. It is very, very important. For me, this is like a bad dream. I served in the foreign service for 35 years. When I was in Israel, 1994-98, $1 was exchanged for 22 Naira. Let me come back again. 1 Naira at the official rate, 22. And then the parliament was 86. How can I ever have imagined that dollar will be what it is today? Unfortunately, like I was saying in terms of the question of the state level, we had states at that particular level. I'm talking about the question of pilgrimage operations now, who also took advantage, adding 1,000 fake names to get dollars. I'm talking about dollar, which they get at 22, and then went on to sell at 86. So let us go back. What is to be done
it's a
now?
very, very, very troubling thing that you have raised there, because sometimes looking at history is very, very disturbing. But because of the elections, we need to take a quick report from our correspondent somewhere in Surulere right now, Kelly Giga, to give us a quick feedback, exactly what is happening, how far so far with the elections going on right now in various parts of the nation. Good morning, Kelly. And can you give us a quick update? What's happening? How's the election going? What's the turnout like?
This is about the 5th or 6th polling units we are visiting, and the story looks almost the same. We are right here at the Bajagel Senior High School. There are 2 polling stations right here, but take a look at what exactly is playing out here. Just a moment ago, I had to interact with some of the INEC officials on ground, as well as the ad hoc staffs on ground here who are also conducting the process. And for 2 of these polling units here, I can confirm to you that, take for instance this particular polling unit where we have some officials just here. So far, the capacity of this polling unit is about 114 registered voters, or who rather collected their PVCs. But as at 15 minutes ago, only 6 persons had voted. As at 10 minutes ago, only 6 persons had voted so far. To my extreme left as well, that polling unit has a capacity of about 764 registered voters. I understand only 97 of them collected their PVCs. So just 10 minutes ago, I understand only 3 or 4 women had registered, and about 6 males had, voted rather. So that's about that's the story for this area, the Sule constituency 1. It's pockets of voters all around, and we're just wondering why exactly this kind of turnout in the elections. We had thought that with how the 2023 elections played out, perhaps maybe voters would have perhaps come out a bit more today to vote. It's a densely populated area, I must say, and so I'm really amazed that we do not have voters right here at these particular polling stations. 2 polling stations here, and earlier on we visited about 5 other places, and that's the story for the day. The voters we're not seeing them out here. I think I must mention as well that we had about 121 persons collected their PVCs. So in this constituency 1, we're expecting about 121,000 persons to vote. But with this turnout right now, I'm afraid it's not looking too good as at now. Well, perhaps we still have some time until 2:30 p.m. Let's see if things will get better.
Could it be as a result of low voter education or awareness? Because that's one of the issues that has been raised, Kelly. Okay, well, Kelly, thank you so much for the reporting. We'll definitely get back to you. That kind of thing, that issue had been raised earlier, about people not getting enough awareness about the elections, as he said as well.
That's the effect right there.
Exactly. So let's hope that, as he said, between now and 2:30, when the elections will close,
there's still plenty of time.
Troop out. Well, don't worry, don't forget what he said. About 100,000 people are being expected, and according to him, I'm not sure up to 1,000 have come out so far.
I suppose the children are out there playing football.
So please, it goes back to what we're saying. I mean, we're just discussing the Naira, for instance. The people who are going to appoint the professionals that will get the job of crashing the Naira, or rather boosting the
value
fate
of the Naira.
They are the ones that you have to vote for, the ones that you have to put in office for them to appoint the right people to get the job done. So that's the conversation. So please go out and vote. If you are in any part of the country where elections are holding in your community, please go out and vote. It is important to you and to the future. Get back to the conversation, Ambassador Olukoni. It's I don't know how you have had to handle the issues, particularly because you have found yourself in situations where you have to take some decisions, and it will seem like things are just not moving as they should. But part of the issues that have also been raised is the effect of the policies, these 4 policies that the CBN has raised in the past 1 week. Do you see those policies as concerted, focused in one direction, or they are just scattered in different places, going in different directions?
No, we can say that the policies are focused in terms of what exactly should be done. But the question and issue is always implementation. And I think Professor Ajayi had raised raised the issue earlier. It's one thing to have a policy, it's another thing altogether to effectively implement. And I would like to connect this to our effort at the level of the AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. As part of effort to sensitize people to it, we went around the country and we used the chambers movement at that particular period when I was in the chambers of commerce. And part of the effort is to expand the export basis in terms of what exactly the potentials. Now, if you have a policy, for example, to encourage export, and you're exporting goods from a particular part of the country, because a lot of Nigerian products, and I give you the specific case of our hibiscus flower to Mexico. and the crisis which we had at that particular period. You have to contend with customs. You have to contend with a lot of export regulatory agencies. These are part of it. So it's one thing to have a policy. The other aspect of it is to effectively implement and ensure implementation of those policies. And that's why I'm coming up to the question and issues of that. The subnational level, we have a lot of role to play in this particular area in terms of taking advantage of what exactly is on ground. There needs to be the Nigerian Export Promotion Group. And the export promotion is to encourage export and increase our export too as well. How much are we using this? The respective states across the country. Let me connect to recent development in the Nigerian mining sector. Gemstone. We heard what happened in Ibadan, the bomb blast. I had been to the gemstone market in Ojo in Ibadan. Ironically, it's in a slum area of Ibadan. But a lot of work, a lot of marketing, a lot of activities are going on in that particular place. To what extent, for example, is the state government or your state government is taking advantage of what exactly is happening in that place?
You know, Ambassador, that's a very interesting dimension to the conversation, sincerely, because there are those who will be pointing in the direction of constitutional amendments, but at the worst, we should be having collaborations. But, you know, let's wind down now, gentlemen, in about 90 seconds. Prof, going forward, how optimistic are you that where we are now will lead us to where we want to get to?
You know, I'm always optimistic, and I always say bet on Nigeria. In a sense, I think these steps, the central bank, the steps the central bank has taken are in the right step, the right direction, sorry, they are coherent. But there are other things that need to be done, particularly from the fiscal side. But if the money shows the day and the direction is right, I do tend to believe that the likelihood of doing the right thing is high.
Okay.
The truth of the matter, of course, is that the political will to take the hard measures, nobody is going to, by a magic wand, heal things. We have to be prepared for the hard slog to restructure our economy, to get things right. And I think that is where I have apprehension, because Nigerians are screaming.
Yeah,
yes.
two terms that you have used that petrify me, political will and restructuring. Those two, I'm not sure we have good understanding of them, but that's another conversation for another day. Ambassador, what would be your take on how far we have come, whether or not you are optimistic that where we are now is good enough for us to go in the direction that we should be going?
Well, just like Professor Ajay said, I'm also an incredible optimist about Nigeria. But as Nigeria, we must be ready to swallow the very bitter pills. And one of the fundamental issues and things is that truly we must restructure our country. Definitely. Long shot, but we must continue to take steps towards that direction. Okay. Economic readjustment and things like that are just palliatives at the end of the day, so that the respective state and federating units can be able to deal with the question of development and the question of having a better life for people. That is the bottom line.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ayola Olukoni, former DG of NACCIMA. And we also had Professor Olawale Ajayi, Professor of Legal, Social, Political Environment of Business, Head of Department Strategy, Lagos Business School. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to share your insights with us this morning. Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Please join us.